And welcome back. And I have with me the incredible Darren George, who is casting director and director of operations for GMLV Casting. Welcome, Darren. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to see you. And before we get started, I want to tell everybody, I hope it's all right. Darren had a birthday earlier this week.
I
So
did. I did.
put in the chat for him happy birthday. Look, birthdays are important. I know some people don't celebrate birthdays, but I think that you and I do. So I just
Yeah.
want everybody to put in the chat happy birthday to Darren. I hope it's
Oh,
been a
that's
good
so
one.
sweet. Thank you. Thank
Yeah, and you
you.
know what? Is it okay to mention that someone else was being born on that day? Is that okay
Oh,
to
absolutely.
tell
Yeah.
everybody who was born on your birthday?
So my mentor and really good friend who basically started my career in casting had a baby on my birthday. Her firstborn, a little boy. His name is Fox. And so I just like to think that he's going to be just as amazing as I am.
That's right. I love it.
In true Aries fashion.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. So I just thought that was just so unique. So wanted to share that. So happy birthday to both. I like the name Fox. So let her know that I
I
like the
know,
name.
right? She was like, I just want something simple, not hard to pronounce, and different.
But I like that name
Check, check,
Fox. It
check.
has some fire behind that thing. So
Right?
tell her congratulations. So we're gonna talk about casting. We're going to talk about the role of a casting director, kind of dual because you're director of operations too. So we're going to
Yes.
really get into that conversation. We've had some really great conversations. This is going to be another great conversation. So I know you are going to bring it with realness. I'm looking forward to it. So, casting director, what is the role of a casting director?
Um, there's so many facets to the role of a casting director. I would say the main one is essentially being a liaison between um, production companies as your clients and talent. So we act as that mediator to bring the talent to the creative team in order to make any project successful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's pretty much the cut and dry, the meat and potatoes of a
Mm-hmm.
casting director.
Now, you make that sound really simple, but I already know. What do your days look like as a casting director? What are some of the things that you're doing?
um, we like to say that there is never a dull day in casting, because they fluctuate. The hours fluctuate, the the job duties fluctuate from day to day. Um, and I some days I spend a lot of days just answering emails and doing research and social media and looking at, different artists and what other, what production companies are doing. And some days I spend 8 hours in a casting seeing
Mm.
about anywhere from 40 to 50 models or actors. Um, and yeah, some days I'm staring at a screen for 12 hours to where literally I have to have people pull me away. But it does. It fluctuates. There's it's good and bad because some days again I kind of have it easy, but as soon as a job comes, it's like hit the ground running. And where I could have had 2 days of just like kind of lulling through the week, the
Yeah.
next 7 days are nonstop. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but I think that I like to pride myself on my work ethic. So even at 9 p.m. when I probably should stop working, I'm still looking at emails. I'm still drafting that email to go out to the client for the next day. Um, so I just think that it, it it's a testament to like how passionate you are about something, but um, it's ongoing. It never stops,
Mm,
and I would even say it's kind of 24 hours. I mean, even when I'm out and about walking around, I'm scouting people. I'm looking at
mm,
talent, normal people walking the streets, um, at restaurants, sitting outside. I'm always just like I'm a people watcher. I like to be very observant, um, and always looking for like the next thing or
right.
person or it.
Wow. And I heard you say you made a phrase and you said 7 days. So I knew then, yeah, this is 24/7.
And that's not that's not maybe every casting director. That's how I work. I don't stop until the job gets done. Um, so sometimes that's at the detriment of working a full week. You know,
Well, I guess that's why you're the
sometimes
director of operations.
I guess so.
So when you get a job from a client, what
Mhm.
typically are they saying to you?
Um, so generally, we'll get a call or an email that basically just gives you the bare bones of a project. You know, how many people they're looking to cast, um, location of the casting, um, and honestly, generally that's it. There's so many other factors that we have to kind of pull out of the client. It's funny because we also kind of joke that a lot of people think that casting is easy, and so in the grand scheme of things, we're generally at the bottom of that list. And it's like, all right, yes, we have the concept and we have the lighting and we have the clothing or the product. And, you know, 2 weeks into it, they're like, oh, wait, we actually need the models or we need the actors. How are we going to get this done? So a lot of it is last minute and rushing to make sure that you fulfill the needs for the client but also doing it effectively.
Mm,
But I would say that sometimes clients only know so much, and so you do have to pull it out of them. Then you start to ask about like ethnicity, like what type are you looking for? Do you want women? Do you want men? Is there a specific body type? Do they need to be in the union, or can they be freelance actors or models? You know what's the rate? Because you're gonna get a different caliber of talent whether you want to pay $200 for an 8 hour day as opposed to $2,000 for an 8 hour day.
uh,
So, all of those questions need to be answered in order for me to effectively do my job in getting the talent to show up.
right, right. And when you're selecting talent, how is there a science to you selecting? First of all, when you're selecting the talent, we'll talk models since I mean, you do models entertainment, but we'll talk modeling for this moment.
Yes.
What are you selecting this client for? Because I think I saw something about the storytelling. So what are you exactly selecting the client for? It's not just, oh, you got a gig, you got a job to do, but what is that client's responsibility, and what are your thoughts in picking that right client, that right model, excuse me, for that client based upon what they've said?
I think it's extremely important to give the client what they are asking for. I think it's also extremely important to give the client what they didn't know they wanted.
Mm,
Um, a lot of times creative teams go into having, a very tunnel vision idea of the model or the look that they wanted. And I think that that's where we have the ability and the skill set to come in and say, yes, this is a great option, but have you thought about this type? Or, what if I know you're saying that you want this body type, but how interesting would it be if you had this body type as opposed to your straight small, you know what I mean? So I think it's about reading the client and being able to anticipate all of their needs and going above and beyond that.
okay, this is great. Um, yeah, what are the thoughts that you might go through to do that? What are some of the questions that you're asking yourself to anticipate, to really meet their needs?
I think one of the biggest things, I think it's helpful. I will say that a lot of our clients are repeat clients. So we have the ability to create a rapport with them and an understanding.
Mm,
That's not
yes.
every client, but a vast majority of ours are regulars. So we learn and adapt, shift and shape
That's
based
good.
on their whole philosophy, their brand philosophy. Um, but I wow, that's a great question. There's so many there's so many questions that come into play. Um, I think I would start by going straight to their social media. If it's a new company that I've never worked
Nice.
with before, I would go straight to their social media if they do have an online presence, and just try to get a vibe and a feel for who they are as a company. I think that that's the most important thing. Even before I send that first email asking about ethnicity, age,
Yeah.
race, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Body type. I go to the website, I go to the social media, and I try to pull together as much information as I possibly can so that I can eliminate a lot of the back and forth questions. And it also it's like a little trick, but you're also tricking them into thinking that um you knew about them before they came to you. I think it's also a very good business tactic. But
Okay.
I think it's really important to do your homework, your research on the client, before you just jump at the bit to try to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's
yeah.
something we're hearing throughout the career talks conversation. That research, knowing your client. What, as far as the casting for the models, what do you enjoy most about it?
Um, I will never not enjoy a fashion week. I know that they are stressful, and I know that
Yes.
halfway through it, I'm probably going to want to crawl in a corner and cry. But
Oh
there
my
is
gosh.
something that's just so thrilling about like fashion week and like the process of start to finish, like, hearing a designer's like their their inspiration and helping them curate that inspiration into a story um for millions of people to see is very, very thrilling. And it I think every step of the way is also why it's very exciting for me, is that I'm a person who is very much like instant gratification. So like each step of the process, you feel validated and appreciated, from hearing the concept to setting up the go sees with the models to having the client be extremely excited because they got to see all of the people that they wanted to see and they look great in the clothes, to showing up backstage making sure all the models get there, to helping the models get into the clothes onto the runway, and then rapping. Like there's just something about it that is it just, my heart
I
is
can
like racing
tell
right now
it.
as I'm like talking
I
about
can
it because I
see
miss it
it.
so much.
Oh my God. And you know what? I can see it. And this is so important because you enjoy what you do.
I do.
And that is so important. That means you don't mind waking up in the morning, And so someone should, if they want to be a casting director, they need to feel about it like you do. They need to have that passion for it. And I can tell, I'm looking at you like, oh my gosh, you know, and you hit on
Yeah.
something very important. You hit on really like going back to that job description piece, talking about curating that story. That's
Hmm.
that value that you're bringing to your client. I don't think, and for anybody who's listening to this who wants to be in fashion design student or career changer, this is why Black Fashion World calls casting directors. We fit the casting director into the market of a fashion marketer because you're helping market that brand.
Hmm.
That's why we at Black Fashion will call you fashion marketers. You are helping tell that story. How important is that on that runway?
Yeah.
And how does that fit into when you're picking out models to send to this client to look at? How does that play into that?
Um, it plays a huge part into it, and honestly, again, it goes back to being able to read your client and also being able to give them what they don't necessarily know that they need, because you tell me you want this type of model, I'm probably going to send you 15 other options that are the complete opposite of what you're looking
Mm,
for,
mm-hmm,
just to have options, just
mm,
just so. And I also think it's also an idea of not being pigeonholed. In the reason why I wanted to get into casting is because of the lack of representation. And I think it's really easy to, um, and this is any brand, but it's really easy to pigeonhole yourself and kind of like not think of the bigger picture and outside of the box.
yeah,
And that and it's also providing an opportunity for somebody who you might not have necessarily even considered.
yeah.
And if I can give that one opportunity to the brand and that model to show representation, like that's what I'm here for.
Thank you. You are a huge part of the solution. You're a casting director. You're, I don't know about others, but you're a part of that village. You're looking out for them. When you said something a little while ago, I want to go back to that because you mentioned the fashion week piece and missing it. And look at your face just light up every time we say that. But you mentioned, you said, I miss it so much. At one point, you said, I probably would feel like I want to cry. I'm paraphrasing. I want to crawl in a hole. I want to cry in the corner when it's look at you when it's over. Talk about that time, because this is if someone's considering a career of fashion week, casting director. What are you experiencing during fashion week? Do you sleep?
It it's nonstop. You don't really sleep. Even if you do lay down, you don't sleep because you're stressed out. You're thinking about
Mm.
the 15 things that could go wrong, and it's like, and it's teamwork. I don't do it alone. So then, it's also, I have to manage a team and make sure that, like, I'm like, oh my god, did this person pack the cameras for the go see for the models? Like, if they didn't, I need to be ready to go buy one in 2 seconds. um and on top of that, it's you're not only dealing with just fashion week. There's still our day-to-day operations that need to be dealt with. There's still, in September, not only are you doing, well, leading up to September, not only are you doing fashion week, but it's getting towards the end of, like, filming for TV and movies. So they're starting to wrap. So you might have jobs where completely separate from fashion, that is another part of the day that I can't neglect, because that
Right,
is another source of income.
right.
And so it's just like, it's just layered, and coupled with the anxiety of just, like, to be 100% honest, I don't feel like, and as a Black man and as a Black gay man, I don't have the luxury of messing up. I don't have the
Mm,
luxury of dropping the ball. So it has to be right,
mm,
because I just, there's no other way for me.
mm,
So to get that instant gratification, to get that final product,
mm,
and
mm,
to have, the models be happy, to have the designer, hug you backstage and say, oh my god, I couldn't have done this without you. To
right,
have the production team,
right,
grateful, because
right,
it's a reflection of them as well.
right.
That just makes it all worth it.
Mm. You talked about, because I understand, having to get that right, not having that luxury. You got to get it right.
Hmm.
What are some of those things that you have to go through, putting that excellence on it, that people need to consider when they're doing that job?
um Sacrifice, um long nights, sometimes not getting that hour lunch break, um, and sometimes not having to remind somebody that you didn't get your hour lunch break. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, or not having to, like, let somebody know that you stayed up working till 2 a.m., but just,
Mm-hmm.
like, taking it for the team, and, like, nothing is done. I feel like none of it should be done in vain. It should all be done because you want to absorb and excel and exceed. And
Mm.
so
Absorb, excel, and exceed. That's a tweetable. Somebody capture that for me.
tweet it. And if
Absorb,
you,
excel, and exceed. This is good. Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry, but I had to capture that.
no, it's okay. I love a good tweetable moment. But if
I'm
you can,
sorry,
if
but
you
yeah.
cannot, if you can just, it's for me, it's work ethic. If you put in, I feel like I'm a testament to, if you put in the work, um, you'll see results.
And so let's
And it,
talk.
it it's not going to happen overnight. It's really not. But you have to have faith and the
Mm,
determination to see it through, if it's what you really want.
mm. So let's talk about that. your career path. Like you said, it's not going to happen overnight, but you're that testament. If I understand or remember correctly, you started out as a designer.
I did. I did. Um I started out at the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. Um and I thought that I was going to be a fashion designer. And then I was like, wait a minute, I don't like being under a sewing machine. So that's not going to happen. And
Okay.
then I had an amazing teacher who kind of, well, it wasn't only the teacher, I think it was just the school. They require you to, they're like, yes, you are here for design, fashion design, but there's so many facets to fashion design. There is knitwear, there is
Yes.
styling, there's all these. So there were introductory courses to everything, and I fell in love with textile design. And I just love the idea of creating shapes and patterns and color and getting dirty in the lab. And like, I was just drawn to it. And so I studied, I got my BFA in um, fashion design with an emphasis in textile design, and moved to New York in 2011 and I interned and did freelance for Tory Burch. I worked with a small interior design company doing textile design before I actually found my way into casting.
Mm.
So there's been ebbs and flows, and it's been a journey. But I always leaned into the fact of that, knowing that I'm a creative. And I think that, once you know that or feel that or believe that, you kind of have to ride that wave and see where it takes you. And it's okay if it doesn't look like what you thought it was going to look like.
That's good. That is, thank you for sharing that journey with us. And look where it's, like you said, you were a testament. So that's why I asked that question, because I want people to understand how your journey ended out. That's why you're here today talking about this incredible journey. Look, this man is casting director and director of operations. That's a dual hat.
And I still have all my hair.
Hello. And cute too. Look at that. Hello. I mean, yeah, you probably aren't sleeping much. So we want to talk, and one of the
Worth it.
things I do is I don't ask people what they make, because that's private. But I do ask people, when you're talking casting director, what can people expect starting out, midways up, and what realistic progressions can they expect?
Um, I think there's definitely levels to, there's the intern slash freelancer, um, into the assistant. And I think I honestly don't like using intern labor, because I think that people should be paid for their time. And I know that, like, a lot of schools give credit for it, but I also think, just being in New York, and like, no one can survive off of like a Metro Pass. I've tried. You can't survive off of a Metro Pass and like a couple of credits for the next semester. Um, so you know, our freelancers start at like a 150 a day is like our like minimum. Assistants can make anywhere from 23 to like 32. And then you move into casting associate, and that'll put you in like a 40K bracket and up, depending on the company. And then, that's also the interesting thing about casting, is that there's only so far you can go. Like it's
Oh wow.
assistant, associate, director, and either you're by your company or, you know, that that's what it is, you know?
Wow. That's something to think about. Wow. There's
It
only so
is,
far you
yeah.
can go.
And like it, and that's also, and I think that, my story is a little different because the company that I originally started it with, which was Gillian's company, it was a small Black owned company. And, I had the pleasure and the honor of interning into becoming an assistant within like a month. Um,
Wow.
because there was room, and also because I did everything that I could to get a spot in her company.
Right.
Um, and then I also was fortunate, like 6 months down the line, that the associate that was there wanted to leave. And so obviously that opened up another job position, and I
Right.
was dedicated and I was committed. Um, and into me being, director of operations was when Gillian sold the company. And so obviously, I have the longstanding relationship with the clients. I know how to do everything. And so it automatically catapulted me into the role that I have now,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, which was also within 2 years, which is when I initially got the director of operations role. Recently, have been owning the role of casting director. And I say that because, there's,
Bravo.
someone gives you a title and you're like, oh, no, no, I'm director of operations. And I'm like, but wait, I am the casting director. Like, I am managing the day to day of the company, but I am doing all of the legwork, and I am essentially casting for major campaigns. Why do I not get to say that I'm a casting director? So that's also a
Mm,
testament into claiming and taking up space and speaking into existence who you are and what you are.
that's powerful. That's powerful. Thank you for sharing. Ooh. Yeah.
I love you,
Yeah.
Carla. You're amazing.
Yeah. Let me stick to the script. Um,
Because we have been known
um,
to go off of script.
I'm trying because there's a whole lot I can go with that, but let's see. I got talking about some of those skills. I heard you mention something about, I don't know what the type of camera was, but it sounds like you have to know that technical equipment if you're going to be that casting director, like Fashion Week. I think you mentioned some type of camera or something that if somebody didn't have, you got to go buy it in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
What do you know? What do you have to know about technology as a casting director?
Um, Not much.
Okay, what is this? When this is probably yes.
Let me just be 100% honest. Not
That's what I
much.
want.
That particular camera that you would take a digital or a Polaroid of a model at a go see or a callback, that's
Mm-hmm.
like your Canon Pixar, like Insta shot, just to get an image of the model in like their natural state,
Mm,
unretouched, all of that. I have been asked to record sessions at casting studios. Um, but there are also assistants there that work for the company, that kind of guide you, on how to use the camera. Because if you break, you buy. So they want to make sure you know what you're doing. But even that is not, it's like hitting the space bar to record, focusing, and I would say having great computer skills, um, is probably a huge technical skill. We're a Mac company, so all Apple products over here. So just being able to send an email. Um, I think a soft skill is being able to communicate. You have to know how to communicate. You also have to know how to problem solve. But if you can format and draft a simple email, that's fine. One of I remember having the interview with Gillian, and she was like, she asked me a series of questions, and one was like, so I'm in a meeting and you need to figure out what this X, Y, and Z board looks like. What are you going to do when I'm in the meeting? And I was just like, Google? And she said, great answer. You got it right. Google is your best friend. Like, if you don't know something, Google it. Like, I have learned how to use Adobe Photoshop. I've learned how to do Illustrator. I have learned
Mm.
how to, do like miniature formatting with my little Nikon camera from Google. Like, if you don't know something, Google it. And
And
I
so,
like fully attest to that.
okay. But now, so, whoa. So some of those things that you just mentioned, are you using those in your role? Like what did you say? Illustrator? Are you
Adobe
using?
Photoshop, Illustrator. Those are things that I learned in school. And I think that they just stuck with me, but they are things that I used. I don't necessarily use them as much now. It's more for the freelancers, but if you have to create like a quick little like border for a flyer that you want to post about a casting, on the social medias like Facebook or Instagram. It's like nothing complicated where you want to like retouch somebody, but it's good to
Mm.
have like those basic skills on like how to create nice cool fonts, or how to make a little casting memo not just look like white black letters on white paper. You know what I mean?
Add a little
Just
flavor to it.
give it, yeah, a little,
That pizzazz.
a
Yeah.
little pizzazz, a little
Yeah,
pizzazz.
that spice to it. So, Darren, this question is gonna go for really anybody who's considering being casting director, and then for a model too. What is your eye is trained for this as a casting director, so it's gonna cause you to maybe, I don't know, think a little bit because you're used to doing it. It's there within you. When you're looking at models, what are some of the things you're looking for in their work to say if you want to work with them? How do you go about selecting that roster or considering that roster?
mm, I would say, I consider us as people models.
Mm.
Um, if you want to think about it, I know that I like to cast and present to my clients real people. Um, so I think if if a model wants if a person wants to be like a model at an agency, I think starting out, it's good to have, they don't have to be super professional, but it's good to have a small portfolio of maybe 7 to 10 photos of yourself. And it can even be less. 5. Giving them a range of poses. Um, you definitely want to give them a close up of your face so that they can like really if they want to consider you for a beauty campaign where you're like, putting on mascara or putting on lipstick. So, or for men, if you're like, advertising a new like beard grooming product or wave cream. Um, so you want to have like a close up, maybe like a 3/4 length, and then a full body. And then maybe a couple of artistic shots just to show that like you have a fun personality and you're not just like this brooding model who's so serious and like I'm in fashion. I think a lot of clients are steering away from that black and white emaciated look,
Yeah.
to more like lifelike real people.
Mm,
So I think if you want to be, considered as a model, I think that's a really good place to start. Just having a small portfolio of just really quality pictures of yourself.
okay. I'm gonna take a couple of questions and then we're going to then I'm gonna close out with a couple for you. Yeah, this has been great. How can you tell who is scamming to get your information and real casting directors? What are the red flags?
Great question. Um, I think I think it's important to know that as casting directors, don't we don't take money. We we essentially are paid by the client. So whether it be Dark and Lovely, whether it be Ulta Beauty, whether it be Target, they pay us and we pay the models if the client doesn't want to. So if a casting director is asking you to pay them for a service, then most likely it's a scam. I say that in the way that like, you know, there was, I think it was back in the early 2000s or the late 90s where there were like these, smaller like modeling agencies that were asking for money in order to train, but then like taking the money and not like really training the models properly. Um, Sorry, I just went on a tangent. But
That's
if they're
no, but that's
taking,
important what you're saying.
if
Go ahead.
they're
It's all right. Go ahead.
if they're asking for money up front, that's a red flag. Um, the if a casting director wants to consider you, if I want to consider you for a role, I'm going to reach out to you and I'm going to give you all the information about the project and see if you're interested and then submit you to the client. That is what we do. Like that essentially that is our facilitation. That's how it starts. And so um I think that yeah, anything that revolves around payment or anything like that, you're probably going to get scammed.
This is good. This question is they want to know if understudy and stunt double, excuse me, are a part of the list you would look for depending on the movie project.
Absolutely. Um, it definitely depends on what the director and the producers are looking for. But I've had to hunt down, stunt doubles quite a few times. From my database and from the street. So um
Okay.
that
Wow.
that that is a pool. That is a pool that we search for.
Wow, Lord, you said your database and the street. That says a lot right
Uh-huh.
there. My screen was flipping. Sorry. So this question is, has a client ever objected to too many options?
Yes. I yes. Client has objected to too many options. Um and I was like, what the hell? Like, Does that mean I'm doing my job too well? Like, I don't understand. What do you mean there's too many? Like, but yes, I think that there is a such thing as too many, but I don't think that you ever know what too many options is until the client tells you it's too many options. Because I give a lot of options because on the offhand, when I originally started, I wasn't giving enough options. And I was like, I would rather you tell me there's too much than too little. So for me to
Mm-hmm.
have to
Mm-hmm.
go back and like find more options is so annoying as opposed to you having the whole kit and caboodle. Like I've tapped out all of my resources. Yes, you have to look at 500 slides of models, but I would rather you do that than me have to spend 2 more days trying to find the gaps in what you are missing.
Mm.
So it can happen, but again, I think it's a testament to being really good at your job.
I love it.
Positive, not a setback.
I love it. Okay, this question is, and then we're gonna let's see five. Oh, okay. Has it been harder to find older men and women of color
Oh
who
yeah.
needed to work in the industry?
Um yes and no. Thankfully that we have really good relationships with, I think over the past maybe 3 or 4 years, a lot of our agencies that we work with have realized that gap in the market. So there are divisions in these, well-known modeling agencies that cater to older models. Um, and then again, we have, built a database of over 20,000 people. So we have done a lot of work as well, finding those odd types, if you want to call them. And that's really why a lot of people come to us, um, is because we're known for our diversity. We're known for, you know, inclusivity, pushing the envelope when it comes to casting. And if we don't have it, we'll find it.
Nice, nice. This question, that's it. If you don't have it, we'll find it. Because I heard you say it a moment ago, and that's just consistency. If you didn't have it in the database, you would go to the street.
I have no problem. And I know that it probably has like a little sexual undertone, but I don't mean it like this. I have no problem sliding into somebody's DMs. I have found many a model just from scrolling through Instagram, and they happen to be a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. I found a Paralympian for the Chromat show a year ago just by like going on Instagram, and like I don't even remember how I found her. It was like I found a basketball Paralympian in a wheelchair that led me to like another Paralympian that I went down a spiral, like a social media like spiral. And like 2 hours later, I came out with, a response from this Paralympian because I had decided to DM her and ask her if she wanted to be a part of the Chromat show. Um, so like there's no limits to what I will do if I need to get something done. I have no problem approaching somebody on the street.
That's that determination. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is what it takes. This is what it takes. Okay, last question from the audience. Then I'm going to make a couple announcements and have one closing question for you. If the project is far or a client can't get there, would they have to pay for the trip, food, etc., for themselves, or is it provided? When you say client, I'm thinking you mean the model. I'm thinking the person means the model. I'm thinking
I,
it means
I I think so as well.
yeah.
Um,
So I think she means or he. I don't know. If I'm thinking the person means if the model lived far away, would the client pay for the trip, the food, and the other expenses, or would the model have to pay for it themselves?
Um, no, absolutely. If a client really wants you, you being the talent, they will pay for travel, they will pay for lodging. Um, sometimes it's like per diem. They put a cap on it for a day. Maybe food's included. It depends on the brand. It depends on the company.
But let me
But
let me let me ask real quick because I'm thinking, and you know better than I, because I'm not sure on this question. Is that at what point would they pay for that? Would they pay for that for casting, or would they pay for that once you get the job?
they would pay that for confirmation of booking the job. So I would say up until that point, like you would be presented to the client, and then what the way that we work is we like to inform if we're doing a New York City based job, if you're not in New York City, we're going to let the client know, oh, by the way, this person is on the West Coast, so they would need travel. And then they can decide if they want to move forward with bringing this person in for casting. Now, for casting, they would probably say, we really love the look of this person, so we will do a Zoom or a FaceTime. And then from there, if they really wanted to book you, then that's when they would go into like booking your flight and setting up your lodging. But um I mean, unless you're just that person that they like want to see you in person, I would
Yeah.
say that like stranger things have happened, but generally it would be at that final stage of like, I cannot do this shoot without this person. So I am confirming them, knowing that I'm going to have to pay for a flight and set them up in a hotel.
So I just thank you. This has been so, and clearly with the questions coming through, just as informative as all of the other sessions. I am so grateful and thankful for you. I just want to share with everybody something I am going to do. I know it is COVID, and I'm hearing the demand about the replays. So I have a value placed on the replay of $39.99, which this event far exceeds that value. It's really like $79. I mean, you're getting 18 people on a main stage. So for a replay for $39.99 is not bad. For COVID, you get access to the replays for full 30 days. But for COVID, we are going to extend that $19.99 pre-sale before the event up until yesterday was being sold for $19.99. So I'm gonna extend that offer for the full time till April 27th.
They'll
Okay.
take it. Hop up on it.
I just went in and I did that a little while ago. I have to double check it to make sure I did it right because I'm doing several things back here. But know that if it's not updated correctly today, it will be updated later today or tomorrow. It will be until April 27th. The replays will be available up until April 27th for that $19.99 in lieu of COVID. We have to put some pricing with it because we're a nonprofit business. We cannot help the community if we don't receive the funding to do it in the appropriate manner. I would love to give it away. I'm a giver, but I have to do business. So we are going to do that. So you let everybody know. For COVID, the price has been changed to $19.99. I do want to say, give us till Monday evening. Anybody who purchased might be sooner, but I'd rather tell you longer. We're not putting them in right now because we're streaming on the YouTube piece. So we thank you. We're streaming on the YouTube
Oh my
piece.
God, are you getting messages? Like,
Yeah.
I want to see.
Yeah, somebody said bless you, Carl, and somebody said very
Oh,
grateful.
yes, bless you.
So it might be ready before Monday. but definitely Monday. I'd rather tell you longer out and over deliver. So, but anybody who purchased the replay pass, you will get an email with the password and the page link. It is a password protected page. It's behind the scenes, so there's a little bit that we have to do uh, behind the scenes to do all that. But with that said, we got like 3 minutes left. Darren, casting director, clearly, you casting director and director of operations, so clearly you got some things to tell people. But in final thoughts, the food for thought, anybody who's considering being casting director, what words would you leave with them? What next steps might they need to take after hearing this career talk?
I would say don't give up, don't stop. It will seem like a very arduous journey, but if it's something that you really are really passionate about, like just keep going for it. And it's interesting because I was just having this conversation yesterday. We're now in a time where we have access to basically everybody. Everybody is pretty much, homebound, and they're on their computers all day. So if there's that person that you're like, I really like their work, I don't even know what I'm gonna get from them, but I just want to like talk to them and hopefully they share some words, shoot them an email, slide into the DM, people really, it goes a long way. People love to, be acknowledged for the things that they do, but also love to impart knowledge to people who are craving it and curious about it.
Awesome. I was going to ask another question, but the time I don't have. I wish I did, but the system will cut me off, so I can't. I do want to say this, two more things. One, someone is asking about how to get booked. If you go to the Career Talks page, you can see Darren's profile, and there'll be information there about GMLV casting that you can follow. And two, what I also want to say is, because I saw a note about someone praying that they could afford the replay, I can set up payment options too. If you need to break that $19.99 up, I can do that for you, okay? So I just want you to know that. Thank you, Darren, and we will be back at, you're welcome. We'll be back at 5:30 to talk about fashion show production. Thank you.